Okay, well, hello everybody. Welcome to Tom's Guitar Show. I'm Tom. They call me Guitar Tom because I'm often seen with the guitar, and they call me on the phone. They ask me questions. They say, "Hey man, what's your show about anyway?" I say, "Well, it's about an hour. It's about guitar players, guitar playing, all things guitaristic." So if you want to call me on the phone, ask me a question about the care and feeding of your guitar, what kind of guitar is right for you, how to play the guitar. We have some related topic like the sitar, guitarra, lutes, ouds, vihuelas, chitolas, banjos, balalaikas, bazookies, bajos, sextos, tiples, cavaquinhos, mandolins, mandoras, mandolas, mandocellos, banjoleles, ukuleles. Anyway, we want to talk about, pipe organs and piccolos, trombones or tromborinas, clarinets or clavinets, clavichords, harpsichords, harmoniums, harmonicas, sack butts or saxophones, tubas or timpanis or timbales.
Bob,
Jim.
hey, have you not gone yet then?
No, I'll probably be here yet next week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
After that.
Sorry, there.
Are we on the air?
We're on the air, yeah. I'm doing my prologue.
Our director has just arrived.
Yeah, that's kind of the way it's going around here. In fact, if anybody wants to join the crew of Tom's Guitar Show, we're having a little deficit right now, so we're down to one guy who's usually late. I mean, you're going to be here, Bob. Bob's going to be our Las Vegas correspondent here. And oh, look at my hands, man. Anyway, I like that, huh? Oh, yeah. Anyway, Bob would be our Las
Like
Vegas
those
correspondent.
Hindu dancers.
Yeah. Anyway, so we could use more crew. I mean,
And by the way, yeah, I just showed up,
Yeah.
but everything got off to a start with Sarah. Who's
Yeah, Sarah's wonderful.
She's wonderful. She gets
Sarah's
everything was up.
wonderful every way, as far as I can tell.
So it's not like the captain, well, you're the captain, but it wasn't like the ship was without a crew.
Yeah.
At least a skeletal crew. But yeah, come on down and volunteer. We could always use camera people, and
Yeah.
we'll teach you how to use things and do directing and whatever you want to do. You can learn it here. So.
That's right. So also, maybe somebody could take over for Bob. We had somebody. Who was it?
Snowbirding and you're going to be here next week, but then after that you're going to be our correspondent in Las Vegas. So
Yeah. So we'll have our Las Vegas correspondent. But then I don't know. I mean, you're like my Ed McMahon. If I were Johnny Carson, I'm no Johnny Carson. But then again, yeah. Oh yeah, you could do the Ed McMahon.
Here's Tom.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Or I always thought it was kind of funny. But I mean, you have who does he? Conan O'Brien and Andy Richter. Yeah. You could be my Andy Richter. But if somebody else wants to be that, I'm trying to think who did it. Somebody filled in for you last year for a while. Was trying to be you, and did you on the show. I mean, it was like sit behind the camera, but talk with me. And they found that it was difficult. I can't remember who that was. With the archives.
With the new directing equipment, I've become a little redundant behind the camera. They can do all that from in the booth now. But
Yeah, well. Anyway, oh yeah, so speaking of the show, anything, questions about music, you call the show if you want. Politics, world events, personality problems. We're here for you, but keep it clean. This is a family program.
tell us about the guitar you have tonight.
Well, this is my old Guild X1. It's a DeArmond X155, and what it is basically is a replica of a Guild Manhattan. And there's a long story about this. It's kind of boring, and I've actually corresponded with people who are very interested in it, and from England in the past, because they saw me play this on the show and they watched the videos, the clips, and so it's a long story. But basically, this is Guild Guitars, which was I think founded in the 1950s, and they were a guild of builders, and they built a lot of acoustic, but also these beautiful jazz guitars, and they use these old-fashioned DeArmond pickups, which are quite wonderful pickups actually. So this is a hollow body, jazz guitar. But the thing is that Fender bought Guild, and I would say I'm a big Guild fan. But they bought it and they kind of killed it actually for a number of years.
Was that Fender or what, Fender when someone else owned Fender?
Well, it was Fender. I mean, Leo Fender was long gone, of course, by this time. But Fender had been bought by a Japanese company and was then purchased by an American company, and they are you know. They're going strong.
CBS owned Fender for a while, didn't they?
CBS owned Fender in the 60s and 70s, later 60s. So they bought them like, what, 66, I think, 65, 66, and they changed the way the guitars were built quite a bit. And then and a lot of things happened, you know, they started building them in Japan in the 80s, and then in Korea, and even in India. And then there's some American company, American investors bought it back, and they opened up the factory. Actually, we had a newer and better factory, and they've been going strong. I don't know if you know how they're doing financially right now, and they're ups and downs, but they sure have built a lot of guitars, and they've built very expensive ones in California, which are quite excellent. They built some good ones, I think, and I have a few of these in Mexico, and they've also built them in China and Indonesia now. I think Indonesia. I think they're building them in. And then the Japanese ones are actually somewhat sought after because they're very different. They were Tokai guitars, basically, with a Fender decal stuck on them. It's a long story, man. But the story about this one is that, okay, so Fender bought this company, bought Guild, and the Guilds use these DeArmond pickups. So this guitar is called a DeArmond, and that was the name of the pickups. Yeah. The body and neck were actually built in Korea, using the same equipment that they used in Elizabeth, New Jersey, in the Guild factory for many years. People from the Guild factory in Elizabeth, New Jersey went to Korea and showed them how to do it. And I would say that the Koreans who built the body and neck did an excellent job. And then apparently it was shipped back to the United States, the body and neck, and then the pots and the knobs and the pickups and the wires and everything were put on there. So this has a kind of a D here. So this is DeArmond's tailpiece. The truss rod cover up here says Guild on it. It's the old Guild truss rod cover. And the pickups are probably pretty old when they built the guitar. They were off the shelf from the DeArmond company, which has gone out of business. These pickups are somewhat sought after, actually. They're very. So what I have here is basically a international replica of about 1958 vintage Guild Manhattan, and it's I think it's as good as a Guild, but it's jazz guitar, man. So I've had this for since the late '90s. I've been just when it was new, and I think they built a bunch of these in the '90s because there was like a swing dancing craze.
Oh.
And so, and there's still a lot of people who are into swing dancing, but there was like a real swing dancing craze.
Yeah, I remember that. There, various TV shows, and I think a movie came out.
Yeah.
They had a fad going for a while.
Yeah, but if you were going to have a big swing band, this would be probably the guitar you'd have, in the band.
Right.
But they didn't sell that many of them apparently, and they pulled the plug after 2 years. Is what I've heard. Now I'm not sure if everything I'm saying is accurate because this is what I've heard, and I've corresponded, I say, with people from around the world about these guitars because these are sought after. Somebody from Boston who watches this show through, I guess on YouTube or whatever, has corresponded with me, and they had an opportunity to buy one of these, actually rather inexpensively. And I said, "Do it." But some kid had it who didn't want it, didn't know what to do with it. But I mean, you can see that this a guitar like this isn't for everybody. It's a certain kind of jazz guitar. Be great for playing a swing band. Because it's big, fat, thick. And I'm just playing it through this little tiny.
And since jazz guitarists aren't playing arena tours,
They're not playing what tours?
not playing arena tours,
Yeah, right. Arenas, yeah. There's I've known a lot of jazz guitar players. And I'm afraid of people thinking I'm a jazz guitar player because I will play some standards and stuff, and I know a bunch of fancy chords, and know a bunch of chords and stuff, you know. But
Well, and most of the songs in your repertoire are 30s and 40s songs, aren't they?
I know a fair number of old, I know a bunch of old songs. And they sound great on this guitar. But I don't want to be thought of as a jazz guitar player because a lot of times your bar tab is higher than what you get paid when you're a jazz guitar player. And
Well, as we've mentioned before, the difference between a rock and roll guitar player and a jazz guitar player.
so a rock and roll guitar player plays 3 chords in front of thousands of people,
Right. A jazz guitar player plays thousands of chords.
in front of 3 people. Yeah. I think a lot of people will say they like jazz. You know, when they're doing it, when they go out and stuff like that, because they want to sound sophisticated. But really, when it comes down to it, they don't really like jazz. I think it's like, I mean, there are people who really like jazz a lot. And I'm not
And
like-
there are a lot of things that are jazz.
Yeah, jazz is a very broad term too, and there's stuff that I hear that just is painful to listen to. But there's like classical music. If you have atonal music from the 20th century, it's just thought of as classical music, but it's painful to listen to. There's a lot of really nice stuff that's.
But, Dixieland and bebop and cool jazz don't have an awful lot in common.
And free jazz. Bebop and smooth jazz, according to a number of people, because I was interested in this smooth jazz thing because it's. I think I put it up on one of my my blog or my tweet or something. There's a link of what Pat Metheny said about smooth jazz, because he was getting into it, saying that it was like some of the worst. It was the worst music that was ever, created by humanity. And it's like you could see why people wouldn't like jazz because they've heard it, And he was, I think he singled out Kenny G. But so like.
Well, a lot of that smooth jazz is what the rest of us call elevator music.
Yeah, well, yeah. But, there's a smooth jazz show on KCCK, and I've been listening to KCCK in my car, Kirkwood's jazz station.
Yeah.
And which is kind of an interesting station. And they have actually, like real DJs and people playing records, not just an algorithm or something on a computer. And these on-air personalities and so forth. And it's interesting because it's kind of, it's a community college in Cedar Rapids, so it's like, and of course there was jazz and Jim on WSUI at night for many years here in Iowa City, local public radio station. But there's a smooth jazz show on KCCK, and I guess I don't remember what time it is, but I turn, it's on sometimes when I'm driving somewhere, and it's kind of fun because like the smooth jazz thing, it could be like elevator music, it could be kind of an R&B crossover, with a really heavy bass. I'm not talking too much, but there's this. Okay, so I got this gig once. It was for,
Play something.
Yeah, maybe I should play something. But I had this gig once, and somebody was hiring me from Florida to play reception for a company in Iowa City, and like a biotech company, but the main office was in Florida. So I talked to the woman, the secretary, who was trying to get all the details lined up and everything like that. But she wanted to know what kind of music I played, because I was recommended by somebody locally. And I tried to explain to her what I was going to do, like fingerstyle guitar and stuff. And I said, well, more like, and I said the thing, because I know that I could get beat up by certain people. I don't want to say smooth jazz in front of Steve Grismore, because I'll get in trouble, But so I said, well, it's like smooth jazz. She said, smooth jazz, what's that? Said, smooth jazz, like Kenny G. She said, oh, I love Kenny G. But she had like an African-American accent. And, this is this secretary. And or administrative assistant, I guess they're called now. And she was, person doing all the lining everything up. And so I got the gig, and I played the gig. Everybody was happy with it. I did probably electric nylon string guitar thing. And, but, so of course, I was aware of this Pat Metheny, this clip. You can hear it on YouTube. What Pat Metheny thinks of smooth jazz. Some interview. It's a clip from an interview. So I started looking up what the definition of smooth jazz was, and it basically follows the same rules as bebop. You're doing variations on the melody. You're doing the appropriate chord changes, but you embellish the chord the chords themselves a little bit, and then has a strong rhythm. And so, like, smooth jazz and bebop are closely related, but bebop is cool.
Yeah.
And smooth jazz is, I don't know. There's a commercial with Kenny G.
Yeah, that Snickers commercial.
Yeah,
You're kind of lame when you're hungry.
yeah. And he's Kenny G. And
Yeah.
I mean, how would it be to be Kenny G?
Yeah.
And I mean, how would you like to do that? They probably,
I'll bet he made a pretty penny for it.
I bet, yeah. They probably sell a lot of Snickers bars.
All those guys, Betty White did one of those, and
Yeah.
Robin Williams did one.
Oh yeah. His was kind of fun though, because he was
Yeah.
like,
Football coach.
football coach, but he was acting crazy.
Yeah.
Which he liked.
He's
to
acting
do.
like Robin Williams.
With Kenny G.
Yeah.
He's just being lame.
Yeah.
So acting crazy, that's Robin Williams, which is, that's his job, that's fine. But being really lame, that's Kenny G. I mean, I don't know.
Betty White getting tackled in a football game. I suspect that was a stunt woman
Yeah.
or a
She's
stunt
like-
man in a wig.
She's like 90 years old. Isn't
Yeah.
she? People break when they're,
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, us geriatrics get brittle.
I hope I'm not that brittle yet.
Yeah. Well, you're not 90 yet.
What?
I say you're not 90. I'm not 90 yet.
Yeah. That's right.
We both have a ways to go for that.
I was in the nursing home and somebody came all concerned and a woman had fallen they're in the shower.
Yeah.
And they was going to take two of them and lift her because they had to be very careful how they lift the old
Right.
people because they're brittle.
Yep.
It was the woman who cleans up after they're looking for this other nurse aide or whatever, but she wasn't available. She couldn't find her, so they got the woman who cleans up after the dinner there at the nursing home to help. Anyway, I don't know. Sooner or later, we're all gonna.
Yeah. We all get old if we live long enough.
That's right. But guitars, they last a long time. I have one from the 1820s hanging on the wall, still plays. Got the one that I had when I was a kid, 1970. It was built in 1970, hanging on the wall, still plays fine. Got my a little explosion of the expensive guitars from the mid-1980s. They're fine.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a good guitar. This one is, I'm sure it's at least 15 years old now. So what is this, 2014? 15 years ago was 1999? Yeah?
Yeah, I was watching a movie on TV the other day with someone who's still making movies, and boy, he's looking young. And I checked it, and, it was made late 90s, which is, 15, 16 years ago.
Uh-huh.
No wonder.
Yeah. I watched well, I have this gig, I play in this church on Sundays up there in Coralville, and a couple of weeks ago, a woman showed a video. I think I said this last week on the show, but she had yeah, we talked about this last week. She had the Peace Pilgrim video. She had a VHS tape she put into a TV that had the,
Has a VHS deck in the bottom of it, yeah.
yeah, and it's not even broken yet or anything like that. And we watched this thing, and there's a woman the Peace Pilgrim woman who died in 1981.
Yeah.
And so I was just looking at these cars and the glasses people were wearing, their hairstyles and stuff, and thought, oh, this would be like, So this video had to be made before 1981.
Yeah.
And maybe late 70s or something like that. And I was thinking, wow. Like that 68 Impala that I used to have,
Yeah.
When this was made, maybe that was only like 10 years old. Now it'd be 68 Impala would be kind of a unusual thing to. I haven't seen one for quite a while actually. So
Yeah.
anyway, here I am. I'm sorry, this old Bill Cosby thing on one of his records. He was talking about his grandfathers. You know who died yesterday? We could read the obituaries.
Yeah.
You know who died anyway. And now, anyway,
And now we're getting to the age where we read the obituaries.
yeah.
Like George Burns said, look every day. If you're not there, it's a good day.
That's right. I've been using this little tiny amp here, and it's just a little Fender Champion 20, it's called. But it's 20 watts, which is kind of a lot for a small amp. A lot of amps that size are only 5 or 10 watts. Like 10 watts is pretty common. And it has onboard effects. But it's, you know, it's small, but it has a 8-inch speaker in it. A lot of times little amps have like a 5-inch speaker or something like that. The thing is actually, I mean, it goes low. It fills the
A
room.
lot of sound for a little amp.
Yeah, and I only have it tuned up to 3.5. This goes to 10. What happens if I turn the gain up a little bit more? I don't like it. I like it.
Here in the vast PATV studio.
Yes. Yeah, we'll probably just have to call you up, or you have to call us up.
Yeah.
I guess we tried all kinds of things having you on the screen, but it's kind of hard to do. It's kind of cool to have you when you're at snowbirding, you know?
Yeah, since Jared left, nobody here seems to be interested in doing that.
Yeah. Well, we're all understaffed these days. That's the way
Yeah.
things go, you know. But yeah, back in the good old days of Jared, that was oh well. So yeah, I'm gonna play this guitar more these days. I guess lately I've been trying to obsess on different guitars. I've acquired them, and I was actually looking at one yesterday. That didn't buy it.
Probably should take them down and play them once in a while.
Yeah, I'm thinking of. We got you know, Valentine's Day coming up and everything. That's the next big guitar holiday. I'm also trying to think what to do for the. I couldn't do the faculty recital at Coe College last year because it was the day after Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day was on a Thursday. They were having it on the 15th of February.
Yeah.
And, you know, the day after Valentine's Day, that's a Friday for me, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't be playing any faculty recital. I mean, you know, plenty of faculty kicking around, but I mean, Spanish guitar. I mean, that's when they need you the most, that weekend. So I played Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Thursday, Friday, Saturday that weekend. It was a big deal because that's what you do. I mean, if you're married, you're trying to preserve your marriage or get, you know, maybe you did something wrong, you know. You know, you're trying to make up for it somehow.
Yeah.
Anyway, go to
Take
Tuscany.
the wife somewhere nice. Tuscan Moon. Will you be playing there this weekend?
Oh yeah,
That's down Kelowna.
yeah. We had a great time on Saturday. The place was packed.
Oh, yeah.
It was just all kinds of you know, excitement and happy people who came from far and wide. Friday night was a little slow. Friday night there was it warmed up and there was drizzle and fog, but the pavement was still really cold.
Yeah.
So like we had frost on our porch. And, anyway,
My driveway was all ice this morning.
yeah, their sidewalk doesn't look too good. Well, actually, the sidewalk looked like you could go skating on it. This one kind of gathers water when it's melting right in front of the house. The kind of long Governor Street, but then when I left the house, it was covered with a nice light dusting of powdery snow. So, which makes it's that much worse to try to walk
Yeah.
on. But anyway, so I should play this thing. great guitar, what can I say? Played this in the restaurant on Saturday night, and then I played it in the church on Sunday morning, and I'm playing it here on Tuesday night.
Suppose you'll still be doing that church gig this weekend too.
Oh, yeah.
That's up in Oakdale?
On Oakdale Boulevard, or off Oakdale, the Journey Church. It's right up there. There's a, yeah, it's easy to find. You go up on the Highway 965, you know,
Old 218.
Old 218, yeah, past the water tower, you know, that says Coralville on it. Oh, little town of Coralville. Oh, that's right, that's right.
As we've noticed before, all little towns in Iowa are named after water towers.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah, funny. But anyway, so yeah, you go up there, and then there's Oakdale Boulevard. And you go to the right, and you end up in the university campus, Oakdale campus, where they have all these little startups and things. It starts up. It's like Attorneys General startups or starts up. I don't know. But if you turn left instead, this is assuming you're going north toward North Liberty. Then, of course, if I move over the side, we can see it. Anyway.
I'll look over your shoulder.
Yeah, you go that, yeah. Anyway, two heads are better than one. Anyway, what is that? Okay, yeah, so, yeah, it's not far from the highway, 965 there. It's actually in the, just, you know, there's a couple like little strip malls. Very easy to find. So there's a Pastor Chuck up there, Charles Kelsey, I think. And it's a very liberal kind of church. I know some people think the word liberal is, it's been vilified, you know, by various, you know, politicians and
Yeah, I notice all liberal politicians call themselves progressive now.
yeah. They're actually, the progressive is being, I know some really right-wing kind of people, and progressives, and they get angry like they're going to spit something bitter out when they talk about progressives, because they,
Well, have to be a new name.
I guess I have to. Yeah. If Rush Limbaugh and Glenn Beck, you know, are attacking it, you know, then I figure it must be a good thing for humanity.
Must have done something right.
Must have done something right. Yeah. But anyway, I'm saying this church is very progressive in that they're very welcoming of all kinds of people. So people there wouldn't normally go to church, I guess. So, see if I can get this thing to work. Hello, you're on Tom's Guitar Show.
Yeah, hi, Tom.
Hey.
It's Bob.
Hey, Bob, how you doing, man? We're talking about you. Wonder what happened to you if you were still around.
Oh, yeah. Just been a little more busy, and just listening to you more often than calling in.
Well, mostly I just talked to Bob. This Bob over here, you know. I guess there's a lot of complaints on guitar music.
Yeah. Oh, I just got one quick question, really.
Okay.
I haven't played much electric at all. I had a Fender amp, and couldn't cure to the buzz. And so, I don't know, it's at my brother's house in Cedar Rapids. But I haven't done any circuitry for a long time. Got an engineering degree way back when. But, so I was kind of wondering, when I was goofing around with that amp, and you say you really liked that one, and you were going to adjust the gain, what, do you know the difference between gain and volume?
Yeah,
Is there a preamp thing?
It is like a preamp thing, and I think I understand it. If I try to explain it to somebody, I realize I don't understand it. The gain is like a preamp thing, and it also gives a different kind of. So yeah.
I mean, I can. I've done a lot of filter theory and stuff, so all the frequency stuff kind of makes sense to me. You know, boosting the bass here, and treble there and stuff.
Well, you add power to it now. I'm just going to turn up my my gain here. I probably distorted it at home. I turn the gain all the way down. I turn up my volume, I can get plenty loud, like, it's a little bit cleaner. So it's a
So like,
preamp thing.
so like gain is a preamp thing, and volume is more in the central amplifying
Yeah,
circuits.
that's a pretty good way to put it, yeah,
Yeah,
something like that.
that's kind of what I figured.
They have the preamp or whatever, and pre-gain and post-gain or whatever like that on some amps. They just change the, they can just kind of change the language of it as far as I can tell. I didn't really hear about gain very much, except among the really, like, the engineers back in the old days, and then all of a sudden I see gain on amps. And I've heard pre-gain and stuff like that used to be on them, but I think it's the same thing. I think it's just a preamp. So it's like, yeah, I mean, things have changed on the amps as far as just, what the things say, and of course there's a lot of other stuff, modeling and so forth. I have another channel that I can go to on this amp, and I also have other amp models, so I can get a lot of distortion on this little thing here. This is actually quite new. It's just a $100 amp. I think it's made in Indonesia
Huh.
for Fender.
Yeah, that's about all I paid for mine. Musician's friend,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I bought different cables. It just seemed to have buzz. What do they normally do for what causes something like that?
Well, a lot of things can cause it, I suppose. I mean, there's going to be something's wrong. One thing is these little things have circuit boards in them. It's not, the amp itself isn't, it's not like an old-fashioned amp. In fact, I have some, I have a kind of a collection of amps, and I have amps that I've, bought over the years. And some are very simple, and they don't do, they have volume and like a little bit of tone control, a little equalization and so forth. And then I can do, have reverb pedals and so forth. And in a lot of ways I prefer that because, like, this one is really cool, but if I turn the knob just a little bit, like if, it's putting it in the car or whatever, and I show up at the gig and there's not a whole lot of room where I play normally, and also it's kind of dark where I would put the amp, it's hard to see, and it's hard to get down there on the floor and twiddle the knobs and then get, because I play in restaurants and places where there are waitresses running by, or I play in a place where I have a fairly dark stage. I mean, the spotlights will be on me, but where I put my amps could be dark. So I can't really see the sort of fine tweaking, and maybe I don't even know exactly how I had that amp set when it sounded so good. So, the thing is that a lot of things can go wrong. Minor adjustments can cause things to happen. I have, also it could be, also guitars, I have guitars that hum terribly.
Yeah.
So.
Is that little thing you got there that you like? Is
I
that
like it.
all
It's good.
solid state?
Yeah, it's solid state. It's got amp modeling and effects on it. The reason I got it was I needed something really small. Like when I was playing a restaurant gig during Christmas season, I put it under my stool because there was no room on either side of me to put it. So I had to put it under my stool. I had to lean it back. We had a can that had to contain hot chocolate powder or whatever that I used to lean it back against. So it'd be leaning back, but it'd actually be coming up. I have a slightly bigger stool than this there, and it would fit underneath it and still fill up the room. So the reason I got it was because it was so small. I actually have a bigger one similar to it, and then I have a bunch of other amps too. But it's just like,
You got tube amps?
yeah, I have a. See, 1, 2, 3 tube amps. So you got a Fender Super Jap XD. It's all tube amp, but it also has onboard electronic effects. Got a Vox.
Are they tube amps because they're older, or because they're just more?
They're all pretty new. I mean, I've got a Peavey Delta Blues, which is, I think it's from the '90s, but it was a retro kind of thing. It was meant to be like a very old-fashioned amp. It's like it's got a lot of great big tubes in it and a huge 15-inch speaker. And it's so it really.
What kind of difference do you actually hear between a tube and a solid state?
I hear a difference there's a sort of a warmth or a different kind of tone you get from the tubes. And the thing is, I have a bunch of different guitars, and it's matching the amp with the with the sound. The thing about tubes is they're very delicate, And, you know, if you were gonna play, it would behoove you to turn it off and wait, 15 minutes or more before you move it. So, probably, and it's just that the timbre is different. It's described as warmth, and I can hear it, I have the Super Champ XD, and I have a Vox amp that has the Super Champ XD is an all tube amp, but it has, digital effects. Instead of having like a spring tank or whatever like that for the reverb, it has digital effects and amp modeling. So it's got that fancy electronics in it, but it has tubes. The Vox is mostly solid state, but it has a couple of tubes in it just to warm it up, and it's okay. It's pretty good. The Peavey is a great sounding amp. The thing is, it's hard to get it. Like I've had it on the show a few times, but it's hard to get it to I can't play it at low volumes, is what I'm saying. It's only 40 watts, but it's a 15-inch speaker, and I have to play it kind of loud to get it to sound right. And I don't really play, I seldom play any place where I can play very loud. I'm playing like in, so what do? I play like a Tuscan Moon in Kelowna. I play this little church, up in Coralville, and I play at that wine bar in Coralville, the Mendoza sometimes, and I just can't, turn up very loud. So I almost never have a venue to take that thing. I don't really hang around like, nightclubs and blast out loud noises. I can. I have equipment, and I have earplugs. I could make a terrible noise. I used to play that Peavey amp at Checkers in Cedar Rapids. It was a blues club. And I do this kind of blues act with the Telecaster and that thing, and I turn it up. It goes up to 12. I turn it up to the knobs go up to 12, so I turn it up to about 8, and it would be loud. And then I did my vocals through a Peavey keyboard amp. Just to plug my vocal mic into that, and I would just make a lot of noise all night long. And but if I turn it up to 1, it just doesn't get the sound out of it. So that's my So I hardly ever use it. It sounds great though. That's a really great sounding amp, that Peavey Delta Blues. And mine's from the 90s. I've had it for quite a while. I've had one new tube put into it, but the thing about the solid state amps is they're really easy to work with.
More durable and reliable.
Yeah, you can just toss it in the back of your car and not worry about it. And it's also a lot cheaper. I mean, you spend $600 for a tube amp or $100 for a solid state amp, and you won't get the same sound out of the solid state amp, but you can get a pretty nice sound. I like this sound, actually. And I have another amp, 35 watt amp I've had on the show a couple times. I play that one outdoors when I'm playing the outdoor gig at the Tuscan Moon in the summers. I use that one, but I have little reverb pedals, so I can kind of craft a sound I want, and then the amp is just an amp. It doesn't have anything fancy on it, so anyway. Yeah, good luck. Find yourself an amp, man. But, yeah. The amp is another instrument in its own right. I've been collecting amps. We just talked about Bob. Where's him and Louie, of course. I haven't heard from Louie for a while. I think he's called December, yeah.
And we'd still like to hear from Phil or anyone who knows where Phil is and how he's doing.
Yeah, we haven't heard from Phil at all. You have an update?
Yeah, he's fine.
Oh, you have talked to him?
Okay, well, that's good to know. Yeah, what were we talking? We're talking about people.
People calling in.
Phil should call in, but we'll get Phil back someday.
Or as the list you read off at the start of the show, anybody interested in any of those things,
That's right. You can
call up and
in.
we'll talk about it.
We don't usually have the phone number up anymore, but anyway, it doesn't matter. The whole call-in show thing is not the way it used to be back in the olden days.
No.
The show's been going for about 20 years now. It's we're pushing 20 years. Probably be 20 years like late this summer. I think this coming summer. So we're coming up on that 20th anniversary, whenever that's going to be. And back in those days, get a lot of calls. Also get a lot of obscene phone calls because people wanted to, that was a fashion back in the days. There's this clip about this guy who was doing a thing about, I think, weapons, carrying weapons in New York City. It was a public access show out of Manhattan, I think. And the guy was, so he wanted to talk about, the serious conversation about, having, permits to carry handguns.
Yeah.
And pros and cons. And almost every call he got, or every call that we saw in the video clip was somebody making an obscene phone call. And sometimes they get him going for a little while, which they used to do on this one. People ask me a question. There was a guy who used to call. There's a guy who used to call. He was a disc jockey from a local FM rock and roll station, I won't mention. And he used to call and make these. He kept me going for a while, asking me some sort of pertinent question about, and then he'd ask me if I could insert it into my body in a way that, after a while. And then I met him, actually. He gonged me at a comedy show. I was trying to do a comedy. I was supposed to see tried my luck at doing comedy, so I did I wanted to do open mic at the Penguins Comedy Club in Cedar Rapids, but it was actually a gong show thing. It was a special. They weren't doing the open mic; they were doing a special thing, but I could do it anyway. So he gonged me, and I found out he was the guy who used to call my show the obscene and everything. And the guy who was emceeing it just had no respect for this guy whatsoever. Anyway, but he was a judge because he was
Because he's a local celebrity.
local celebrity radio guy. So I was on, and I saw him, and he was like, I don't know, same thing. It's just that he was kind of not very tall and a little plump and pink. Didn't look like he had to shave very often.
Unimpressive in person.
Yeah, you could see he probably got beat up a lot in school when he was growing up. I didn't. I was always like, in elementary school it was a little tough for a while here and there, but not too bad. And then later on, I was kind of like, above average size and fairly strong. I didn't make a very good victim. I wasn't very. People really couldn't bully me very well. I just wasn't didn't fit the demographic or something like that. And so I don't have that need. I know a lot of people haven't worked out things they should have worked out, by 8th grade. And I got those things worked out. Now, I'm not saying I don't have I've got a serious Guitar Jones. We'll see what I bring next week. Which reminds me, next week, we're doing Tom's Guitar Show special, and the next few are going to be kind of interesting. We're going to have guests and things. And the last Tuesday of the month, I guess it's going to be quite a while. We're only, was the 14th today or something like that?
Yeah, so that'll be, the one after next will be the last of the month.
Yeah. The 14th, and it'll be the 20-something.
21st and the 28th.
28th, yeah, okay. It's 2 weeks. Uptown Bills?
Corner south of Buke and Lafayette,
Yeah, down by the tracks.
block north of the county office building.
That's right. And then we're going to have I can't remember her name. I should remember her name. She's been on several times. I've had her on my show up there. Singer-songwriter. She's going to do a CD release thing. And then, concert and party there right after the show. So I'm going to have her on the show for a while. So she'll get a little television coverage, get people to come down and everything like that. Maybe if anybody watches anyway. And then...
So if anybody wants to come down, it's 2 shows. They can watch us make the magic and then a real live singer-songwriter.
Yeah, and there's no cover. And,
Yeah.
And the cookies and carrot cake and stuff like that are reasonably priced.
Ice cream and coffee,
Yeah,
soft drinks.
yeah, but don't get a milkshake during my show, please.
Don't want to listen to the machine.
Yeah, yeah. And then Joe Brisbane's going to come down. He did in fact, I have to remember to rehearse with him beforehand. But he wrote a song about going to Uptown Bills. And so what we're going to do is record it. I mean, we're going to perform it on the show.
Right.
Then we're going to take that recording and it'll be used on the Uptown Bills website.
Oh.
But he wrote this song about his experiences there or something. And he sang a little bit of it to me over the phone, but I haven't rehearsed with him yet. But we're going to rehearse someday soon and then do that one together. So that should be interesting. And then the one after that, there's a band And they're talking about the, you know, there's a Woody Guthrie song about the deportee, about
No.
the plane crash. It was the 1940s, I think. There was a plane crash that people were being deported back to Mexico. And the plane crashed, and they took their bodies and they put them in a mass grave. And then recently, some people managed to raise enough money to put a marker to put their names.
Yeah.
All they will call you will be deportee. It's a Woody Guthrie song from back in the 40s. But anyway, this band is going around to publicize that story. I don't know much about them. I'll find out more about them. Anyway, that'll be the February show.
The Uptown Bill show in February?
Yeah, yeah. They'll be right after me, so they'll be on the show for a little while. So that should be interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, trying to make a New Year's resolution to make these shows more interesting. I thought about playing more guitar music and maybe going to a half hour instead of an hour. 'Cause I thought I'm afraid I'm boring.
Yeah, we haven't set a real good example tonight.
No, I did a terrible job.
I will step off camera and let you play the guitar.
Yeah, I've got well over 4 minutes. Well, almost 4 minutes probably. Anyway, probably be winding it up here in a minute.